Well, good evening, everyone. This is Michael O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion for September 13, 2019, recorded around 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, we now have Tropical Depression 9, which was upgraded from a potential tropical cyclone to an actual tropical cyclone. It is a fully fledged warm core tropical system with the center located somewhere in about here. And over the next few days, it's going to be a really interesting evolution to see where the path of this thing may go. Here is the Grand Albacoa Islands and Great Bahamian Islands, and then here is the east coast of Florida right here. So we're really watching a couple things here. First and foremost, we've had a center reformation a little bit further to the east. That is the reason why a lot of the models, pretty much all of them, unanimously agree with this taking a more of an easterly trajectory. Maybe the worst of the conditions sparing portions of the Albacos and Great Bahamian Islands that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian, which is obviously pretty good news, but there will still be impacts to potentially hinder the rescue efforts that are going on within those islands currently. We are also watching for Florida here to see how close this gets here over the next coming days. And if we go to the Hurricane Center webpage here, you notice from last night we've had a pretty significant shift further to the east here. And portions of east central Florida along the coast remain under a tropical storm watch, basically from Indian River County all the way through Volusia County. We've had tropical storm watches that were implemented earlier last night, and now they are still going in effect through today. And you notice that this is now expected to be a hurricane as it turns away from the United States. Potentially, there is a couple things that would render that solution not a viable option, and we'll go into that here in just a little bit. But judging from the visible satellite, this is not a very well-defined area of concentrated vorticity. And we'll look at the vorticity map in a minute. But it is still pretty elongated. There is still an elongated area along a surface trough that is probably about more so right in here. We've had this sort of surface trough that's kind of sitting in here, and a little bit of energy has decided to kind of bundle in this region. And we're watching for any more potential center reformations further east. You could have center reformations further east in the deeper convection. We'll have to see if that happens during the night tonight or during the day tomorrow. Taking a look at the recon plane that was in there from earlier today, they did find evidence that there was a center of circulation that was located right here, but that has died off. It will most likely continue to die off. There is almost no convection in this area, and they did find somewhat of a closed center of low pressure in this region with some, stronger wind gusts certainly in some of the stronger bands of deeper convection. But we do have generally a closed area of low pressure that will continue to head off towards the north and west here over the next few days somewhere in this region. But we go to this is the 850 millibar vorticity, and you can see basically here is our area of interest. This is Tropical Depression 9, and you can see that there is still a very elongated area of vorticity here, of energy in the atmosphere at about 5,000 feet, and this is from about 2 p.m. today. And what you notice is that there's a little bit of bundling of energy right here, but it is still very elongated, and it's not a nice closed circulation like if we go to the larger scale, like you would see like up here. There's also another interesting note to point out. This is a trough right here that's kind of digging down into the scene. We'll highlight that just a tad bit better. There's a little bit of a trough right here, and depending on how strong Tropical Depression 9 is, this may actually try to make a connection with this trough and turn it further out to sea. If it is weaker, though, it may miss that trough and push it further towards the west, getting closer there into Florida. There's a lot to watch here over the next 24 to 36 hours that is going to be very crucial to the exact track of Dorian. Or, excuse me, not Dorian, Tropical Depression 9. Thankfully, this is not a Dorian storm, thankfully. But again, we're watching to see how strong this actually gets, and is there any more center reformations that are further east. If it is stronger, and if there is another center reformation further east, one of those or both of those combined could lead to this heading out to sea, possibly maybe affecting Bermuda here in a couple of days. We'll have to keep an eye for our folks here in Bermuda, but certainly if you live in the Bahamas, the Albacos, Great Bahamian Island, if you live in Florida, along the Florida East Coast, you should still be watching the progress of Tropical Depression 9, as it could still make a run to go further east, and we'll take a look at, or further west or east, so we'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. Again, this is the 18Z guidance here for Tropical Depression 9, showing a pretty much a northeast or northwesterly track, and then a hard right turn towards the northeast here. Here's Bermuda right over here, so we're going to have to continue to monitor for folks in Bermuda, but also for portions of Florida East Coast and the Bahamas that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian. I do want to take a look at this real quick. This is the flash flooding potential, the days 1 through 3 risks for potential flash flooding. And you can see there's a slight risk of flash flooding by the Weather Prediction Center from about the Orlando area further to the south and east, and also towards the north all the way up through Charleston, with a marginal risk sort of surrounding that region. So there is the potential for a little bit of flash flooding along this area if Tropical Depression 9 comes a little bit closer towards the west. If it does become closer towards the west, there could be more impacts along for portions of the Florida East Coast through Georgia and South Carolina, with rainfall obviously being the primary concern. This is not expected to be a significant wind threat. Speaking of wind threat, this is the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. This is not the cone probabilities. There is still the threat for tropical storm force winds near or just offshore the Florida East Coast, with a track somewhat like that. So there's a lot to watch here in the coming days. Now to the latest models here. This is the Harmon model. This is replacing the old GFDL model. From my understanding, this is the 12Z run. We're getting the 18Z run in currently. But this is the 12Z run along with the HORF model. And I just want you to note to the positioning of Dorian, or Tropical Depression 9, not Dorian. The Harmon, which is the old GFDL, has it roughly south of Freeport right here, and on a motion sort of towards the west-northwest. However, the HORF model is further towards the north and more sort of out to sea. So there's a lot to watch here in the coming days, even within the next 24 hours, to see exactly where the position of Tropical Depression 9 will be. We think it may be somewhere, anywhere really, within this region, and that is going to be very important. And you go back to the track forecast, this could still be a little bit further west along the western envelope of this guidance, or it could be further east along the eastern edge of this guidance. And this is the cone probabilities. And of course, then you get out to days 4 and 5, and there's a larger, about 200-mile spread or so within the where the center, I want to repeat, the center could be. So we want to take a look at how this is going to progress over the next 5 days, over the next 24 hours especially, to see exactly what impacts, if any, that Florida could get, or for portions of the southeastern United States or the rest of the Bahamian Islands here. So again, there is a lot to watch, and also not to kind of leave out here, we do now have Invest 96L, which is this system right here, with a 50% chance of development over the next 5 days as it heads generally westward towards the islands just near Barbados and some of the other islands. And then we also have a new disturbance that will be 97L with a 40% chance of development over the next 5 days as it too also heads towards the west here. So again, a lot to watch. We also have more tropical waves that will be kind of coming off of Africa that we need to watch. a very favorable pattern is getting ready to set up here within the next couple of weeks, and I do suspect that we could see the main development region, let me draw that better, the main development region light up with activity, and potentially even the Caribbean or maybe the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a lot to watch here over the next coming days, especially over the next about 24 hours with regards to Tropical Depression 9 and its impacts, if any, to Florida or the southeastern United States. Again, the main takeaways from tonight is that the center reformation has occurred further towards the east and is pushing the tracks also further to the east. Again, the Bahamian Islands, the Albacoa Islands, and Freeport, the Grand Bahamian Islands, need to monitor the progress of Tropical Depression 9, as this could hinder some of the recovery processes from Hurricane Dorian. A lot to watch. We'll have another video. I'll have another video discussion here by 11 o'clock tonight regarding the 11 o'clock advisory on Tropical Depression 9. Hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I will be back at 11 o'clock.